After a decade of almost uninterrupted bloodshed, Europe finally gained long-awaited peace. Yet even in these tranquil days, all eyes were fixed on the French Republic. The achievements of the first consul, both on the battlefield and in civilian life, accomplished in the early years of the 19th century, lifted the self-awareness of the French people to unprecedented heights. Central and local authorities, as well as ordinary citizens who had recently lived in a state of political fragmentation, now displayed remarkable unity. The principal merit of the first consul was that with his unyielding mind and constant strength of will, he compelled those around him to work. He advanced this splendid monument of human reason. In addition to large-scale reforms in the financial sector, the first consul reconciled the Church with the Republic by signing the Concordat with Pius VII, thus putting an end to a disastrous schism. This agreement declared that Catholicism was to be the majority religion of the French people. At the same time, it also preserved freedom of worship. The lands once owned by churches passed from negligent management to the hands of enterprising owners whose diligence contributed to a significant increase in agricultural production. The magnificent silk manufactories of Lyon and the renowned vineyards of Bordeaux also showed incredible rates of production. The Republic's trade turnover increased by nearly 25% within 1 year. At the same time, Napoleon carried out an education reform. For the first time in France's history, lycees, government-funded secondary schools, were established. The school's curricula strongly encouraged mathematics and all scientific disciplines. Establishing the offices of prefects and superprefects led to astonishingly swift and decisive changes. The chaos and negligence typical of the work of former officials gave way to accurate and efficient execution. The first consul instructed his most capable state councilors to tour the entire country regularly. These local observers ensured that the new administrations acted with proper diligence and effectively achieved the goals set by the government. The first consul allocated vast funds for the repair of 20 major roads crossing the Republic's lands. Moreover, 4 new highways appeared between France and Italy. Crews had nearly completed the Simplon Road, and construction began on a road linking Pays-du-Mont and Savoy. The Republic laid several other roads through mountain passes, thereby eliminating natural barriers that for centuries had divided Italy and France. Yet, the civil code developed into the true pinnacle of the first consul's labors. My true glory is not that I won 50 battles. One Waterloo erased them all. What will live forever is my civil code. France was, without a doubt, in the greatest need of a unified system of laws. French law under the pre-revolutionary order was territorially fragmented, chaotic, and consisted of rules derived from feudal, canonical, and various other sources. Isn't it absurd and terrible that what is considered right in one village turns out to be wrong in another? And what kind of unprecedented barbarity is it when citizens must live under different laws? Creating the civil code grew into an exceptionally complex task. It all began on August 12, 1800, when Napoleon decreed the establishment of a special commission tasked with preparing a document draft. The commission included 4 outstanding jurists of their time. Their work resulted in a draft civil code consisting of 2,281 articles. The Special Commission sent this draft for review to all legislative assemblies, who then subjected it to thorough analysis in the courts of cassation. Only after that did it go to the State Council for discussion, where each article was examined and debated over the course of several months. The completion of work required 109 sessions, each of which brought this grand idea closer to realization. For 4 years, the consul convened several councils every day, where every aspect of the laws was discussed in turn. And since he possessed a remarkable mind, the first consul often offered profound comments and very sound reasoning, which amazed even such experts in law as Cambaceres. These meetings often lasted until 5 in the morning, because he never left a matter unresolved until he had reached a conclusion himself. The consul promulgated the Civil Code's final version on March 21, 1804. In the future, Napoleon's Civil Code would become the basis of civil legislation in many countries, not only in Europe, but throughout the world. French society quickly recognized the scale of the first consul's constructive activity. Napoleon's tenure at the head of the state was increasingly associated with ideas of national stability and personal security, and the desire to strengthen his position as the head of state firmly entered public consciousness. These sentiments led the State Council to decide to submit to a nationwide vote the question of granting Bonaparte a lifetime consulate. The State Council held a plebiscite at the end of July 1802 in the form of an open vote. The results of the vote were eloquent. 3,653,600 votes, or 99.8%, were cast in support of Napoleon Bonaparte's lifetime consulate. On August 2nd, the Senate, impressed by the results of the plebiscite, unanimously confirmed them. However, from France's internal improvement, the first consul once again had to turn to external threats, which with each passing day became ever more apparent. The English minister's dissatisfaction with the Peace of Amiens grew rapidly, and it was caused by the fact that the Republic was quickly advancing and strengthening its influence over Italy, Switzerland, and Holland. Moreover, Louisiana, which belonged to France, was the object of great interest to England. Year after year, London pressed for this province and gradually built up its naval forces near its harbors. Anticipating the inevitable breakdown of the Treaty of Amiens, Napoleon took steps that left a deep mark not only on the history of France, but also on the fate of the United States. When James Monroe arrived in Paris in March 1803, Napoleon made him an offer he could hardly believe: to buy all of Louisiana from France for 80 million francs. The U.S. government had not even dreamed of acquiring the entire colony, limiting its hopes to gaining only New Orleans. The countries sealed this monumental deal on April 30th, nearly doubling the size of the U.S. territory. London grew extremely irritated to learn that the Americans had bought Louisiana, and the war party in London began to gain popularity. The entire English press launched a massive campaign against the first consul, stooping to outright insults. For English caricaturists, it became a favorite habit to draw him as a yellow-skinned pygmy with a huge nose, so much so that the chaplain of the English embassy, upon arriving in Paris, was astounded to discover that Napoleon was well-built and handsome. All this already foreshadowed a rupture, but the main stumbling block in Anglo-French relations and the cause of war became the question of Malta. Under the terms of the Treaty of Amiens of March 27, 1802, England was obligated by September of that year to leave Malta, returning it to the Order of Malta. France, fulfilling the treaty, evacuated its troops from Naples, Egypt, and the Gulf of Taranto. England, however, despite the agreements, still held Malta in February 1803. Moreover, the British delayed withdrawing their troops from Alexandria. Napoleon repeatedly tried to obtain explanations from the British ministers regarding Malta, but all efforts were in vain. King George III and his cabinet showed a clear determination for war and firmly refused to yield the island, counting in the meantime on the support of the Russian Empire. Such an expectation had its grounds. On March 12, 1803, the state chancellor and minister of foreign affairs of the Russian Empire, Count Vorontsov, in a special dispatch, assured the English government that Russia approved London's positioning regarding Malta, and that they would not refuse to take joint measures with England when the moment of danger to the peace of Europe approached. Finally, on March 13th, 1803, at a diplomatic reception in the Tuileries attended by 200 guests from various countries, Napoleon met with the English ambassador, Lord Whitworth, and staged the famous scene of anger. Entering the reception hall, Napoleon, bypassing the foreign ministers crowded before him, walked directly up to the British representative. "So you have decided on war?" Then, turning to all present and not hiding his irritation, the first consul declared, "The English want war, but if they are the first to draw the sword, I will be the last to sheathe it." While the guests were still recovering from shock, Napoleon addressed Whitworth again, and in an even harsher tone continued with, "The terms of the Treaty of Amiens must be respected. Woe to those who dare to break it. They will answer before all of Europe." And without giving the ambassador a chance to say a word, Napoleon, almost shouting, said, "Malta or war!" With these words, he left the hall. After this diplomatic escalation, the English cabinet finally trampled the Treaty of Amiens, and on April 13th issued new demands. Lord Hawkesbury presented Talleyrand with conditions insulting to the French side. Now, France was to give Malta to England for 10 years and, in addition, free Switzerland and Holland. Nevertheless, seeking to avoid war, the first consul put forward a final compromise proposal. It came down to allowing the English to remain on Malta for an indefinite period, on the condition that French troops would occupy the Gulf of Taranto for just as long. Such a step would have ensured a balance of power in the Mediterranean. However, all efforts proved futile. London rejected any compromises, and finally, on May 2nd, Lord Whitworth officially informed the French diplomats of his departure from France. The departure of the English ambassador made a strong impression in Paris. Everyone guessed that these events signaled the beginning of a new war period. France took reciprocal measures and immediately recalled its ambassador from London. The anxiety that appeared in Paris was repeated in London. For several days, the Parliamentary Hall was never empty for even a minute. Everyone was questioning the ministers about the course of the negotiations. The departing French ambassador, General Anderossi, was surrounded by signs of universal respect and visible regret. The general arrived in Dover at the same time as Lord Whitworth in Calais. The English envoy immediately crossed the Channel and hastened to visit the French envoy, showering him with expressions of respect, even personally accompanying him to the ship on which the general was sailing back to France. The envoys took leave of each other on the shore of the English Channel in the presence of a crowd of spectators, troubled and saddened. In that solemn moment, it seemed as if two nations were bidding farewell. destined to meet again only after a terrible war and the grievous upheavals of the entire world.